Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nawreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Miami mayor launches long shot 2024 Republican presidential bid. DeSantis ratchets up feud with Newsom and dares California governor to take on Biden in 2024. Supreme Court preserves law that aims to keep Native American children with tribal families. Family of 4 died in Idaho car crash after driver fell asleep, report finds. Former Harvard morgue manager stole brains, skin and other body parts to sell them, indictment says. Boris Johnson lied to MPs over COVID parties, committee says. India-Pakistan brace for winds, flash flooding as Cyclone Biparjoy makes landfall. North Korea launches 2 ballistic missiles towards sea in protest of US-South Korea military drills. Pope Grand Imam make call for peace at UN Security Council. World saw hottest early June ever, EU says. Two-time Oscar winner Glenda Jackson, who mixed acting with politics, dies at 87. Lionel Messi scores, gets hugged by a fan during Argentina's 2-0 win over Australia. Pakistan proposal to host Asia Cup cricket with Sri Lanka to placate India is approved. And French veteran Gasquet stuns top-seeded Tsitsipas in Stuttgart for 600th win. You were listening to Headlines, now news in detail. Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami, Florida, has become the latest Republican to launch a bid for the 2024 United States presidential race. The son of a prominent Cuban-American politician and a rising Republican star in his own right, Suarez filed paperwork with the Federal Election Commission on Wednesday to formalize his campaign, according to U.S. media reports. Suarez's entry into the race makes him the third major political figure from Florida to announce their candidacy for the Republican presidential nomination. Two current Republican frontrunners are based in the state: former President Donald Trump and his closest rival, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. The 45-year-old mayor, however, would be the only major Hispanic candidate to launch a bid so far. Florida has long been a prized swing state, though recent trends indicate it is leaning further right, and its large Cuban-American population has been an influential Republican base for decades. But Suarez has an uphill battle to unseat Trump at the head of the Republican field. On Tuesday, as Trump faced federal arraignment in a classified documents case, Suarez made an appearance outside the Miami court where the proceedings were unfolding, only to be confronted by angry protesters who called him a swamp monster or a rhino, an acronym for Republican in name only. Suarez has publicly distanced himself from both Trump and DeSantis, positioning himself as a more centrist Republican voice. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida escalated his feud with California Governor Gavin Newsom on Thursday, daring the West Coast Democrat to stop pussyfooting around and launch a primary challenge against President Joe Biden. DeSantis, who announced his presidential campaign late last month, took on Newsom during a news conference in Florida in which he was asked about Newsom's recent comments to Fox News, agreeing to a hypothetical debate with DeSantis hosted by Sean Hannity. He has got huge problems in his state. I mean, like huge problems in his state, DeSantis said. Yet with all those problems, he has a real serious fixation on the state of Florida. I think it's just bizarre. DeSantis then turned to the Democrats' 2024 primary election, in which Biden is facing only token opposition. DeSantis' jab comes as he shies away from confrontation with his chief rival in the GOP's White House primary, former President Donald Trump. Newsom has previously said he would not challenge Biden in 2024 but has taken steps to boost his national profile in recent months. While several of Trump's Republican rivals have raised concerns about his federal indictment, DeSantis has largely avoided the subject. The governor made only a brief mention of the charges in a weekend speech to the North Carolina GOP, during which he focused his censure on the Justice Department and the Biden administration. DeSantis has been much more willing to lean into fights against Democrats and the media. The Supreme Court on Thursday preserved the system that gives preference to Native American families in foster care and adoption proceedings of Native children, rejecting a broad attack from some Republican-led states and white families who argued it is based on race. The court left in place the 1978 Indian Child Welfare Act, which was enacted to address concerns that Native children were being separated from their families and too frequently placed in non-Native homes. Tribal leaders have backed the law as a means of preserving their families, traditions, and cultures, and had warned that broad ruling against the tribes could have undermined their ability to govern themselves. The issues are complicated, Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote for a 7-justice majority that included the court's 3 liberals and 4 of its 6 conservatives. But the bottom line is that we reject all of petitioners' challenges to the statute. Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito dissented, each writing that Congress lacks the authority to interfere with foster care placements and adoptions, typically the province of the states. The decision, Alito wrote, deserves the rights and interests of these children. But Justice Neil Gorsuch, a Colorado native who has emerged as a champion of native rights since joining the court in 2017, wrote in a separate opinion that the decision safeguards the ability of tribal members to raise their children free from interference by state authorities and other outside parties. The leaders of tribes involved in the case called the outcome a major victory for tribes and Native children. Authorities believe a car crash that killed a family of 4 in Idaho over the weekend happened after the 17-year-old driver fell asleep on a curvy road and the vehicle went off a cliff, falling 30 feet into a river. A fisherman found the car upside down and partially submerged in the Salmon River north of Riggins on Saturday, the Idaho County Coroner's Office said. 4 people inside the car were found dead. Authorities confirmed they were members of a family from Spokane that were heading to Council, Idaho, and had been reported missing. The deceased were Calvin C.J. Miller and these 3 children, Dakota Miller, Jack Miller, and Delilah Miller, the coroner's office said. Sheriff's deputies believe that Dakota was fatigued and fell asleep, according to the accident report released Wednesday. Due to this, Dakota drove off the highway, striking a large pile of rocks, sending the vehicle airborne, the report said. The vehicle struck another large pile of rocks, flipping the vehicle over end and landing upside down in the Salmon River. Deputies believe water filled the vehicle through a broken window, causing the family to drown, the report said. 2 GoFundMe pages have been set up to help the family. A former manager at the Harvard Medical School morgue, his wife, and 3 other people have been indicted in the theft and sale of human body parts, federal prosecutors in Pennsylvania announced Wednesday. Cedric Lodge of Goffstown, New Hampshire, stole dissected portions of cadavers that were donated to the school in the scheme that stretched from 2018 to early 2023. According to court documents, the body parts were taken without the school's knowledge or permission, authorities said, adding that the school has cooperated with the investigation. Lodge sometimes took the body parts, which included heads, brains, skin, and bones, back to his home where he lived with his wife Denise, and some remains were sent to buyers through the mail, authorities said. Lodge also allegedly allowed buyers to come to the morgue to pick what remains they wanted to buy. Bodies donated to Harvard Medical School are used for education, teaching, or research purposes. Once they are no longer needed, the cadavers are usually cremated and the ashes are returned to the donor's family or buried in a cemetery. In a message posted on the school's website entitled "An Abhorrent Betrayal," Deans George Daly and Edward Hundred called the matter morally reprehensible. They said Lodge was fired May 6. Now it's time for global updates. Boris Johnson deliberately lied to MPs about lockdown-breaking parties during the COVID pandemic that would have seen him face a 90-day suspension had he not quit as a lawmaker. A Parliament committee ruled today. The Privileges Committee, which probes breaches of House of Commons rules, concluded that Johnson was guilty of repeated contempts and seeking to undermine the parliamentary process. The contempt was all the more serious because it was committed by the Prime Minister, the most senior member of the government, they stated in a damning 106-page report. There is no precedent for Prime Minister having been found to have deliberately misled the House. He misled the House on an issue of the greatest importance to the House and to the public, and did so repeatedly. The 7-member committee, which has a majority of MPs from Johnson's own Conservative Party, has powers to recommend sanctions on rule breakers that have to be voted on by MPs. But Johnson avoided having to face his peers and the humiliation of potentially having to run for re-election in his constituency by resigning as an MP just days before the report was released. He was unrepentant again on Thursday, calling the report deranged and the 14-month inquiry into his statements to Parliament a charade. He insisted his attendance at the Downing Street parties in question was lawful and required by his job. This is a dreadful day for MPs and for democracy, Johnson said in an angry 1,700-word statement. Cyclone Biparjoy made landfall on Thursday evening as a vast swath of western India and neighboring southern Pakistan braced for flash floods, heavy rain, and high winds. Rain pelted the shores and skies darkened along the Arabian Sea, while dust storms hampered evacuation and rescue work on land. Authorities expect conditions to worsen for 2 or 3 days as Biparjoy was expected to reach wind speeds gusting up to 140 kmph before slowing down in India's Gujarat province. In India's Kutch district, near Jakhau port, where the cyclone made landfall, authorities were expecting significant inundations of the area. In Pakistan, Kati Bandar, in the country's flood-ravaged southern Sindh province, also lies in Biparjoy's path. In Pakistan, authorities said the cyclone would reach the country's southern coastal areas by midnight. The bazaars and beaches in Manvi, India, usually a bustling coastal town known for its wooden boat makers, were deserted Thursday under government shutdown orders. Heavy winds and rains uprooted some trees in the area. Local media reported that a pregnant woman was brought from Shelbet Island to shore and admitted to a hospital. North Korea launched two short-range ballistic missiles toward its eastern waters on Thursday, its neighbors said in a resumption of weapons tests to protest just ended South Korean-US live fire drills that it viewed as an invasion rehearsal. The launches are the first by North Korea since it failed to put its first spy satellite into orbit in late May. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missiles were launched from North Korea's capital region and traveled about 780 kilometers before landing in waters between the Korean peninsula and Japan. It called the launches a grave provocation and said South Korea's military will maintain a firm readiness in close coordination with the United States. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said the missiles landed inside Japan's exclusive economic zone. He called the launches a violent action that threatened international peace and safety. The chief nuclear envoys from South Korea, Japan, and the US held a three-way telephone call and agreed to continue efforts to get North Korea to halt weapons activities and return to talks, according to Seoul's foreign ministry. The launches came hours after South Korean and US troops ended a fifth round of large-scale live fire drills near the Korea's heavily fortified border earlier Thursday. About 30 minutes before the launches, North Korea's military vowed an unspecified response to the drills, which it called provocative and irresponsible. Pope Francis and a leading Sunni imam have made calls for peace at the United Nations Security Council in New York, where discussion focused on the importance of human fraternity. The Pope, who was in hospital recovering from abdominal surgery, sent a statement to the UN meeting on Wednesday in which he said that a third world war is being fought piecemeal and that humanity is suffering from a famine of fraternity. Sheikh Ahmed Al-Taib, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, the 1,000-year-old seat of Sunni learning in Cairo, said in a virtual briefing to the UN Council that human fraternity was the key to global peace, a point he and the Pope had made in a joint document released in 2019. In our own day, with nuclear weapons and those of mass destruction, the battlefield has become practically unlimited and the effects potentially catastrophic, the Pope said in his statement, which was read by Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, the Vatican Secretary for Relations with the States and international organizations. The time has come to say an emphatic no to war, to state that wars are not just, but only peace is just, the pontiff added in the statement. Al-Taib said his intention in speaking to the council was to urge an end to senseless wars. He cited Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, and Yemen. The Grand Imam also called on the council to recognize an independent Palestinian state after 75 years. Average global temperatures at the start of June were the warmest the European Union's Climate Monitoring Unit has ever recorded for the period, trouncing previous records by a substantial margin, it said yesterday. The news comes as the El Niño climate phenomenon has officially arrived, raising fears of extreme weather and more temperature records. The world has just experienced its warmest early June on record, following a month of May that was less than 0.1 degrees Celsius cooler than the warmest May on record, said Samantha, Deputy Director of the Copernicus Climate Change Service. Global mean surface air temperatures for the first days of June 2023 were the highest in the ERA5 data record for early June by a substantial margin, said Copernicus. Some of the unit's data goes back as far as 1950. Copernicus recently announced that global oceans were warmer last month than in any other May on record. The unit also said that at the beginning of June, global temperatures exceeded pre-industrial levels by more than 1.5 Celsius, which is the most ambitious cap for global warming in the 2015 Paris Agreement. According to the data, the daily global average temperature was at or above the 1.5 Celsius threshold between June 7 to 11, reaching a maximum of 1.69 Celsius above it on June 9. Glenda Jackson, a two-time Academy Award-winning performer who had a second career in politics as a British lawmaker before an acclaimed late-life return to stage and screen, has died at age 87. Jackson's agent, Lionel Lerner, said she died Thursday at her home in London after a short illness. He said she had recently completed filming The Great Escaper, in which she co-starred with 90-year-old Michael Caine. Caine said Jackson was one of our greatest movie actresses. I shall miss her. Born into a working-class family in Birkenhead, northwest England in 1936, Jackson trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London. She performed with the Royal Shakespeare Company, where she starred in the cutting-edge drama Mairead Said, directed by Peter Brook, and became one of the biggest British stars of the 1960s and 70s, winning 2 Academy Awards for the brooding D.H. Lawrence adaptation Women in Love in 1971 and the sophisticated rom-com A Touch of Class in 1974. She was Oscar-nominated too for 1971 film Sunday, Bloody Sunday, and had memorable roles in The Music Lovers, Ken Russell's avant-garde 1970 film about the composer Tchaikovsky, and gentle romance Turtle Diary in 1985. On television, she took home 2 Emmy Awards in 1972 for her performance as Queen Elizabeth I in Elizabeth Err, and secured a place in British pop culture history by playing Cleopatra in a classic sketch on The Morecambe and Wise Show in 1971. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,826.35. The NYSE Composite is increased by 183.62 points or 1.17%. Tokyo stock close price is 33,485.49. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 16.93 points or 0.05%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,252.98. The Shanghai index is increased by 23.99 points or 0.74%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,828.92. The Hang Seng index is increased by 420.50 points or 2.17%. Bombay stock close price is 62,917.63. The Sensex index is decreased by 310.88 points or 0.49%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Lionel Messi got hugged by a fan who ran onto the field wearing a number 10 Argentina shirt Thursday during a 2-0 friendly win over Australia, in which the World Cup champion scored the fastest goal of his career. Messi was standing near the corner flag in the second half when the fan ran onto the field and embraced him. The 7-time Ballon d'Or winner appeared to be surprised as the fan approached, but then put his arm around the interloper's back before security guards quickly moved in. The fan bolted across the field and high-fived Argentina goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez on the other end before doubling back across the grass and tripping. The invader was eventually carried off the field. Moments later, Messi helped set up the second goal for German Pazzella in the 68th minute at the Workers' Stadium in Beijing. Earlier, Messi had scored with almost his first touch, only a week after deciding to leave Paris Saint-Germain for Inter Miami. The Asian Cricket Council has accepted Pakistan's hybrid proposal for staging the Asia Cup after India refused to tour due to strained political relations between the countries. Pakistan will host 4 games and the remaining 9 will be played in Sri Lanka, the ACC said in a statement on Thursday. The Asia Cup runs from August 31 to September 17. I am elated that our hybrid version for the Asia Cup has been accepted, Pakistan Cricket Board head Najam Shetty said. Our passionate fans would have loved to see the India cricket team in action in Pakistan for the first time in 15 years. But we understand the BCCI's position. Like the PCB, the BCCI also requires government approval and clearance before crossing borders. The two hosts and the ACC will work on a schedule. Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Afghanistan, Bangladesh and India will be divided into 2 groups. The top 2 teams in each go to a Super 4 and the top 2 play the final. French veteran Richard Gasquet prevailed on his 5th match point to upset top-seeded Stefanos Tsitsipas 7-6, 2-6, 7-5 at the Stuttgart Open for his 600th ATP Tour win on Thursday. It's incredible to achieve it, Gasquet said. I have been 20 years on the tour and I took it to this level in matches. It's big for me, so I'm very happy with this number. Of course, I will try to win some more. Gasquet, who will turn 37 on Sunday, made a slow start as Tsitsipas won the first 3 games but he leveled for 3-3. Then won the first set in the tiebreaker. Tsitsipas, who was playing his first grass court match of 2023, fended off 4 match points, the first with his 19th ace, before Gasquet finally delivered on the 5th. The 55th ranked Gasquet, who defeated American qualifier Christopher Eubanks in the first round, next faces home favorite Jan-Lennard Struff in Friday's quarterfinals. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia, available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.